friends, welcome to the second video on this topic, place of supply. So in the first video we would have seen the basics of place of supply, so where we would have discussed why place of supply is important in the GST and what is its relevance from the supplier's point of view, and how does the government use that to get the revenue allocated to the respective states, right? So now that's the background of place of supply, guys. So now, as we discussed in the previous topic or previous video, that we will be breaking place of supply into two, goods and services, right? So under services there were two sections, guys. If you remember, section 12 and section 13. So what is section 12, what is section 13, guys? So when both the supplier, right, that is both the supplier and the recipient, guys, if both of them are in India, right, if both of them are in India, so then you will go to section 12, right? So if either the supplier or the recipient, right, is outside India, right, not necessary supplier, always supplier or always recipient, if either party, guys, if either of them is outside India, please don't go to section 12. You need to refer section 13 to identify what is the place of supply. So this is the primary difference between when you have to go to section 12, when you have to go to section 13. So it could be a same service, so say transportation of goods service, but if the customer is in India, you go to section 12. If the customer is outside India, you go to section 13, right? So either ways, you need to see the particular transaction where the supplier and recipient are located to decide which section is the applicable section. If both of them are in India, guys, go to section 12. Either party is outside India, guys, please go to section 13. So this is the background of section 12 and section 13. What is the difference, right? So now, as we discussed in the previous topic, that we will be breaking or we will have approachable segments to place of supply of services. We will see what is that. So just a small recap about the general rule, guys, for section 12 and section 13. If you remember, section 12, we need to see whether our customer is B2B or B2C, guys. When both of them are in India, more likely they'll be registered for GST. So the general rule, please see, is he registered under GST, that is B2B, business to business, or if he's not registered for GST, let us say he's B2C, business to consumer, right? So now, if someone is B2B, that he's registered for GST, guys, place of supply will be his registered place of business, right? So if he's registered in Andhra, Andhra is the place of supply, right? If he is not having a registered place of business, then the address of the recipient will be considered as the place of supply, right? However, if you don't have the address of recipient, it's just a walk-in. Someone has come, not given any address, he has received the service and is gone, right? So say you even take DD in banks. You don't sometimes go to any bank, you can take DD. So at that time, if you're not providing the proper address or stuff, but still you have received the services, in those cases, like in cases where the address is not available, the POS will be considered as the supplier's location itself. So B2C had two options. If you know the address, that address. If you don't know the address, the supplier's address itself will be POS. So this is the general rule we saw for section 12, right? Section 13, guys. Section 13, what is the general rule, guys? So here you have one party outside India, right? Supplier or recipient, one party outside India. Here the default rule is place of supply will be the location of the recipient of service, right? Always the place of supply is recipient's location when it comes to section 13, general rule, right? However, if the recipient's location is not available, you are not aware of the recipient's location, then location of supplier can be considered as the place of supply. So the first thing is LOR, location of recipient. If LOR is not available, then you can go to LOS to be considered as the place of supply, guys. But guys, as mentioned, these are only general rule, my friends, right? These are only general rule. So what do we mean this is only general rule? There are other specific rules, right? There are other specific rules. If these provisions, right, other specific subsections, I can say. So section 12 has subsection 1 to subsection 14, right? So 12 subsection 2 is the general rule, right? So general rule will apply only when subsections 3 to subsection 14 do not apply. That is, say the specific rules are built for different types of services. Let's say training and performance service, transportation of goods service. So all these services, they have a different place of supply provisions, right? So say immovable property, as you can see here, right? So place of supply, when you deal with immovable property, is the place where the immovable property is located, right? So you need not see whether it's a B2B or B2C. So it differs. So these are specific provisions, guys. So if whenever you're identifying POS for a particular service, you need to see mainly two things. One, whether you're going to go to section 12 or you're going to go to section 13. How do you see that? Whether your whether the supplier and the recipient is in India or either party is outside India. Either party outside 13. Both of them are in India, section 12. Okay, now you have identified that you are going to section 12 or section 13, right? So after going into that particular section, should you go by the general rule or should you go by the specific rules? How do you see? You need to see what is the service you are going to identify place of supply for, right? If you are going to identify it for an immovable property related service, then there is a specific provision for it, right? You need to see as per that provision and you can't go by the general rule, right? So that is the way you have to look the place of supply provisions, right? So say audit services, right? Audit services is not covered under subsection 2 to 14. What does that mean? You can go and apply the general rule to identify the place of supply for audit service, right? So this way, how we have segregated the POS for services, right, into approachable segments, right? So how we can easily remember, we have tried to allocate it in that way, and how we'll be seeing each of these sections, right? Each of these sections one by one in the following slides, right? So first thing, guys, uh, let's say we'll start going to the specific rules now. Like you saw the general rule, now we'll start looking into the specifics, guys, right? So similar to what you did in the general rule, what you did in the general rule for section 12, guys, what you did in the general rule for section 12, you saw whether the customer was B2B or B2C. What if he was B2B? We said that his registered place of business will be the place of supply. And what if it's B2C? We said we need to see the address. If no address available, location of supply. So whether he is B2B or B2C guided us to identify the POS. Similarly, even in the specific rules, guys, you have this principle. You have to see whether the customer is B2B or B2C, and accordingly the place of supply will follow. So there are some 5 services for which, similar to the general rule, you need to see whether the customer is B2B or B2C, my friends, right? So what are those 5 services, right? Training and performance appraisal services, right? And then transportation of goods services, right? And transportation of passenger service, insurance services, organization of an event or services ancillary to such organization, or assigning of sponsorship. So for all these 5 services, we need to see whether the customer is B2B or B2C. Yes. So if you can see, training, performance appraisal, transportation of goods, transportation of passengers, insurance services, and organization of an event or services ancillary organization. So if you can see, I would probably say you can memorize it as, you know, uh, what to say, T3 OI or whichever way. But if you can see, these are the 5 services, guys, right, which will follow the B2B, B2C of modus operandi, right? So let's take a small example where, say, Mr. Navdeep, right? Mr. Navdeep, say Mr. Navdeep has been appointed by ABC Private Limited, right? Let's say I'm just writing A for short form. Let's say ABC Private Limited, and say this is registered in Maharashtra, right? So Mr. Navdeep is a person from Delhi, right? He is a person from Delhi who is a trainer, who is a coach or a trainer who trains people on soft skills, or let's say interpersonal skills, communication development and stuff. So A Private Limited is appointing Navdeep, who is from Delhi, to provide training services to their employees, guys, right? And they say you need to provide these services for our employees in Bangalore office, right? So Navdeep is going to provide these services in Bangalore, right, which is in Karnataka. But what will be the place of supply in this transaction, guys? So as we discussed, this is a case where you need to see whether the customer is B2B or B2C, guys. We need to see whether the customer is B2B or B2C. So A Private Limited, A Private Limited, which is a B2B located in Maharashtra, right? So since his customer is located in Maharashtra or registered in Maharashtra, as I can say, the place of supply will be Maharashtra, guys. Why? Because he's dealing with a B2B person who is registered in Maharashtra, right? So now this same understanding, that is, if he is a B2B person, the place where he is registered will be considered as the place of supply, will apply for all these five services, guys. So the first thing when you have to do when you're dealing with these five services is to see whether your customer is a registered person under GST or he is a not registered person under GST. If he is a registered person under GST, then the place of supply will be the place where he is registered. So now this is very simple, guys. For these five services, if you are dealing with a B2B customer, it's very simple. So where is the catch? What is the thing we need to remember here is, what if it is a B2C customer, right? Then in that case, the place of supply will differ from the general rule. As we saw, to this extent, that is, if you're dealing with a B2B person, POS is the place where he's registered. To this extent, these five services are common or same as the general rule. No difference, no difference. But when it comes to B2C, these has a difference from the general rule, guys. What is the differences? We will see it one by one. Let's say in the training performance appraisal services, let's continue this example where, say, instead of A Private Limited, right, say Navdeep went to Bangalore, right, to train the ABC employees. Now, let's say Navdeep is having one more day extra in Bangalore, right? So he decides, okay, let me start a walk-in session, a walk-in training session where whoever is interested in this particular locality or in this particular tech park or whatever, he's talking to the developer, anyone can come and attend the session, right? And he is going to charge the people who are attending, right? Say 500,000. That is the employees or walk-in interested people. Anyone can attend this walk-in session. So in that session, uh, the customers are going to be B2C customers, right? They are not B2B. They are not registered under GST. Walk-in customers will be B2C customers. So now, what is the place of supply for the training services if he's dealing with the B2C customers? So as you know, nowadays it is from Delhi. The training is happening in Bangalore. So what will be the place of supply? Should he go to Delhi? Should he be in Bangalore? What does the provision say for section 12? Section 12, it says the place of supply will be the location where such training is held, guys. So in our case, the training is held in Bangalore, right? So which is in Karnataka. So place of supply will be Karnataka. So when you're doing a training or when you're dealing with the training and performance appraisal services, right? So if you're dealing with a B2C customer, right? So the place of supply will be the place where the training is held. That will be the place of supply, right? And training, my friends, it's not defined what will constitute training under these provisions. So as I can say, any process imparting knowledge and skill of the person can be considered as training, right? And you need to see whether your customer is B2B or B2C, guys. It's very important because that's going to determine the place of supply, right? So similarly, transportation of goods, right? Transportation of goods also, if you are dealing with a B2B customer, what is the place of supply, guys? The location where he is registered, right? So that is very clear. As we saw from the previous example, the same principle will apply. Let's also take an example, right? So um, let's say a company, movers and company, or let's say some GTA, they are located in let's say same Delhi, right? And they are getting a customer, or they are getting a customer in Bombay who is registered under GST, right? And the customer says, uh, so we are giving you an order to pick up the goods from, let's say, uh, Gujarat, and deliver it to us in Bombay, right? So what is happening? He is a person who is situated in Delhi, right? He is getting an order from a person in Bombay, right? Say the same A Private Limited of Bombay, right? So A Private Limited of Bombay is asking this GTA to take the goods from Gujarat, right? To take the goods from Gujarat and deliver it to him at Bombay. Now, what will be the place of supply for this case, right? So here, the first thing for this Delhi GTA, who is the customer, guys, right? Who is the customer? The customer is a person from Bombay. So will you go to section 12 or section 13? You will go to section 12. Why are you going to section 12? Because the supplier and the customer is in Bombay. Simple. Now, is it a general service? No. Why? Because transportation of goods is one of the specific services. So now, if you're dealing with, now what you have to see, are you dealing with a B2B customer or a B2C customer? Because transportation of goods follows the B2B or B2C principle. Here he is dealing with the B2B person of Bombay, right? A Private Limited of Bombay, who is B2B. So in that case, place of supply will be Bombay, the place where he is registered. So even though he is picking the goods from Gujarat and he is giving it to the person in Bombay, place of supply will be Bombay only. Why? Because the customer is registered in Bombay, right? However, right? So this was similar to the training example we saw. Even though he took the training in Bangalore, place of supply will be Bombay because the customer was registered in Bombay. However, what will happen if the customer is B2C, right? So that is going to be the uh, part we need to be sure. Say transportation of goods, what the law says, the place where the, or the location where the goods are handed over, right? The location where the goods are handed over for transportation, that place will be considered as the place of supply, guys. Now let's take an example, right? So in we just saw a B2B case, right? So let's say the same company, let's say Movers and Company, located in Delhi, right? So he is having a customer, let's say Mr. Mohit. Let's say Mr. Mohit, right? So Mohit is located in, let's say, Chennai, right? Mohit is located in Chennai, and now he is saying that he wants to send his bike, right? He wants to send his bike to his cousins in two places. He is giving two orders to this GTA. He's saying, I need to send a bike, one to my cousin who is located in, let's say, Bombay, right? Two, I also have another bike who I have to send it to my cousin in USA, right? Because let's say Mohit has got his new car, he is gifting his old bikes to his cousins, or in that case, he is going to transport these goods, or arrange the logistics to send these goods outside TN. One he is sending it to Bombay, one he is sending it outside India. Let's say US, or if you think US is very far, let's keep it Sri Lanka, right? Or let's keep it Sri Lanka, right? So now, either ways, it's moving outside India, right? So now, what will be the place of supply, guys? The law, when it deals with B2C, has given two bifurcations when it comes to transportation of goods. What are they? You need to see where is the destination of the goods, guys. You need to see what is the destination of the goods, right? So if the destination of the goods, that is the place where the goods are going to reach, where it is getting transported, if it is getting transported within India, if it is getting transported within India, then it is going to be the place where it is handed over for transportation, the place where it is handed over for transportation, right? So that's what this is, right? So this is when the goods are transported to a place within India. So in our example, it is being taken from Tamil Nadu and it is taken to Bombay, right? So in that case, where it is handed over for transportation, guys, Tamil Nadu. So the person from Delhi is taking the goods from Tamil Nadu and delivering it to Bombay, right? So Mohit is a B2C customer, guys. Mohit is a B2C customer, and since the goods are handed over in TN, right? The place where it is handed over for the transporter to take it so that he can deliver it in the destination, right? So that place where he is handing it over to the transporter, that place will be considered as the place of supply. So POS will be TN in a case where he is sending his bike to his Bombay cousin, right? However, if he is sending his bike to his US cousin or Sri Lanka cousin or whatever outside India, right? In that case, will it again be Tamil Nadu, guys? Now, here, this is an amendment which was recently inserted, and here, or as per it, which says when the destination is outside India, right? When the destination is outside India, the place of supply will be the destination base, right? Not the place where you hand over. The place of supply will be the destination of the goods, right? So US or Sri Lanka, as the case may be, will be considered as the place of supply, right? So this is the difference, or this is the B2C element on transportation of goods. So you see whether your destination of the goods is within India, or see whether destination of goods is outside India. If it's within India, the place where you give to the transporter or hand it over to the transporter, that place will be the place of supply. Or if it is outside India, then the place where the goods are going to go, that is the place of supply, guys, right? So this is transportation of goods, right? So now the next thing is transportation of passengers, guys. Transportation of passengers. So now, so this is also following the same principle. See whether your customer is B2B or B2C. So if you are making a corporate booking, you are making the booking in the name of ABC Private Limited, and you are booking the ticket. I want to travel in the ABC's Private Limited, and you are giving the uh, GST number of your company. Then it is a B2B transaction. Or let's say the company has a corporate booking with Jet Airways, right? So whatever travel you make, Jet Airways will automatically bill the company. So in these cases, there is a B2B transaction. So if say ABC Private Limited is in Bombay, is having such agreement with Jet Airways of, let's say, Delhi, right? So Jet Airways will always treat the place of supply as Bombay, irrespective of where you travel in India, right? You can take the flight in Delhi, you can go to let's say Chennai, or you can take the flight in Kolkata, and you can go to Goa, irrespective of where you travel. If it is a corporate booking or if it's a B2B booking, the place of supply is going to be the place where the person is registered. In our case, it is Bombay. So Jet Airways Delhi will bill ABC Private Limited of Bombay, and place of supply will be Bombay, irrespective of the location where the employees are going to travel. Just have this in mind. The B2B, B2C, it is similar to the general rule what we saw. If the customer is B2B, the place of the registered person, there is nothing to go beyond. However, what is important, when what to do when it is a B2C situation, right? Because that's the difference. B2C, the place of supply provisions for passenger transportation says the place of supply will be the location where the passenger embarks the conveyance on a continuous journey, guys, right? So the location where the passenger embarks is nothing but the place where you board the flight, or the place where you get onto the conveyance, right? Conveyance is any vehicle or vessel or aircraft which is going to do the transportation service, right? So the place where you are embarking that flight or boarding the flight, that place will be considered as the place of supply, right? So say you are taking a flight from Bombay to Chennai, right? So when you are coming from Bombay to Chennai, which is the place you boarded the flight? Bombay, right? So the place of embarkation, that is Bombay, will be considered as the place of supply for the passenger transportation service. However, we have to understand what is this continuous journey, my friends, right? So what is this continuous journey? It is a journey with a single ticket or more than one ticket, but no stopover between legs of journey for which one or more tickets are issued, right? So what is a legs of journey, guys? A place where the passenger embarks or disembarks the conveyance, or where it is stopped for servicing or refueling, and when it is next stopped for any of these purposes. So legs of the journey is where a flight starts and it stops either for passengers to get down or for refueling or something. In between any of these, there should not be a stopover, it says. So what is a stopover? That is something we need to understand. A stopover is a place where the passenger can disembark. So embark is boarding the flight, disembark is getting down the flight, right? So place where a passenger can disembark either to transfer to another conveyance or break his journey to resume later. Let's say when you're coming from Bombay to Chennai, let's say there is a stop in Bangalore, right? So if the flight is coming from Bombay to Bangalore to Chennai, the flight may stop in Bangalore, but the person is not going to get down at Bangalore, right? He is going to come from Bombay, Bangalore, Chennai. That's a halt for him. He is going to be in the conveyance. He is not getting out of the conveyance. This is called a continuous journey. There is no stopover in between the journey. In that cases, the place where you are boarding the conveyance will be considered as the place of supply. There is another explanation to this subsection, guys. It says this: the return journey should be treated as a separate journey even if the tickets are given at the same time. So what does this mean? So let's say you have taken you have booked a round trip, right? Say you have booked a round trip whereby you are starting from Delhi, and let's say you are coming to Delhi, and then there is a stop in a halt in Bombay, and then Chennai, right? And then you have Chennai, Bombay, Delhi, right? So this is your onwards tickets, and the second one is your return ticket, right? So the explanation says, even though you booked it on the same time, let's say you booked it on 20th November 2020, right? The same day you have booked both the tickets, right? So for the first place, where are you going to embark the conveyance, guys? You will board the flight in Delhi, right? So the place of supply will be Delhi. But for the second, you have to treat the second journey as a separate journey, guys. That's what the explanation says. The return journey, even though it is booked on the same date, right, it should be treated as two separate journeys: journey number one, journey number two. Even though it is a round trip or same time it has been booked, it has to be treated as separate tickets. And for the first journey, the place of supply will be considered as Delhi, and for the second journey, the place of supply will be considered as Chennai. That is both the places where you are respectively boarding the conveyance, right? So if the supplier, let's say the Jet Airways Delhi, for the first transaction will charge CGST and SGST, guys. Why? Because supplier is also in Delhi, the place of supply is also in Delhi. In the second transaction, the supplier Jet Airways will charge you IGST because the supplier is in Delhi and the POS is in Tamil Nadu, right? Chennai. So that's why you know this will be IGST and this will be CGST SGST, because the explanation says treat the onwards and return journey as two separate journeys, right? Even though it is in the same ticket. So this is transportation of passengers, uh, place of supply, right? So as you can see, guys, all of them follow the same rule as the general rule for B2B, and for B2C it varies, right? Now for insurance services, right? So before going into insurance services, guys, there is another scenario possible under transportation. Now let's say you have taken a metro pass, right? And the metro pass, you can let's say it's valid for a week or so. You can board the train anytime you want, and accordingly the charges will be levied. Now you know there are in the Delhi region, the the metro trains is would be across two different states. Now what will happen? What will be the place of supply if you don't know which place you are going to board the train, right? So there, what the law says, if a ticket is given for a travel in future, right, and the embarkation place is not known at the time of its issue, right? So when someone purchased this metro card, he may not know exactly where he's going to embark. He might either embark in Delhi, or he might embark in, let's say, Gurgaon or wherever. So now what's going to happen? The place of embarkation is not known, right? So in that cases, when the ticket is issued, if it is not known, then this particular provision will not apply. Then what would apply? General rule, guys. If the travel is for a future date and the place of embarkation is not known, then this cannot be applied, and the general rule has to be applied, which is the B2B or B2C. If you know the address of the person, the address of the person. If you don't know the address of the person, the subject's location, right? So this is another scenario possible in transportation of passengers. Now, insurance services, guys. Insurance service, same, B2B cases, the place where the business is registered. Let's say you are working in ABC Private Limited, and ABC Private Limited is taking a group life insurance policy for all its employees, right? So now the ABC Private Limited, the insurance company will be billing the ABC Private Limited. The insured are the employees, right? So ABC will pay premium on behalf of all the employees, right? So in that situation, let's say Reliance Insurance is billing ABC Private Limited. It is a B2B transaction, guys. Even though the insured party or your employees, it's a B2B transaction. And what will happen when it's a B2B transaction? The place of supply is the place where he is registered. And ABC Private Limited, let's say, is in Maharashtra or Bombay, and let's say Reliance is also in Bombay. This will be a CGST SGST transaction, regardless of where the employees are going to be located, right? But as we know, for these services, B2C is the one we need to be clear. So if it's an insurance services, the and you're dealing with a B2C customer, the place of supply will be the location of the recipient on the records of the supplier, right? So that can be considered as place of supply, my friends. So let's say you are located in Chennai, and you have recently moved to Bangalore for your job, right? So now there you are going to take a health insurance for you and your parents or your wife, right? So now what's going to happen with children, and you're covering your family, right? So the family, let's say, is located in Chennai, and you are working in Bangalore, right? Your permanent address in Chennai, but you're working in Bangalore, and for taking the insurance, you are giving the address of Bangalore, right? Then in those, and you have taken a house on rent or stuff, you are giving your Bangalore address to the insurance company. If that is the situation, then place of supply will be Bangalore. However, if the insurance company says, no, we need your permanent address, and your permanent address in Chennai, your KYC documents, everything is in Chennai, and the insurance takes on records Chennai as his address, then the place of supply will be Chennai. So it is the location of the recipient on the records of the supplier, that is the insurance company. Say ICICI insurance or Reliance Insurance itself is giving you a personal insurance or whatever. In that cases, what address you are going to give to the insurance company, that will be taken as the place of supply, right? So here the insurer is in Bangalore and you are in Chennai. This will be an IGST transaction, even though physically you work in Bangalore, right? So this will be IGST because your address on records that you have given to ICICI or Reliance will be in as in Chennai, right? Now, organization of an event or services ancillary to such organization or assigning of sponsorship ways. So this is little important in the sense, we are going to have a similar subsection, which is admission to an event. So be very clear, guys. Admission to an event is different. Organization of an event is different, right? So organization of an event. Uh, what is organization of an event? You take all the arrangements to ensure that the event is organized, right? So that service is different from giving an admission for someone to come to, or get admitted into the event. So in the case of organization of an event, again what we need to see is whether the customer is B2B or is the customer B2C. And what if B2B? I think we have discussed in extensively what will happen if it's a B2B. His location will be the POS. What if it's B2C, guys? If it is B2C, you have to again split it into two. What we have to split, if you remember, just like how we saw in transportation of goods, we were seeing the destination. Where is the destination of goods? Is it for the Bombay cousin? Is it for the Sri Lanka cousin? Bombay cousin, the place where I hand over. Sri Lanka cousin, destination of goods. Similarly, in the case of organization of an event, you need to see where the event is held. Is the event being held in India, right? Or is the event held outside India, right? Uh, Excuse me for my handwriting. It's little tough to handle it in my laptop, right? So if the event is in India or the event is outside India, guys, this makes the difference. Or you need to identify this particular information to know what is the place of supply, right? So if the event is happening in India, right? So then the place of supply will be the location where the event is held, right? So the location where the event is held, that will be considered as the place of supply. Now let's say um, ABC Private Limited, right? Organized, appointed, let's say, Star Event Management as their event managers, and they hosted a training party, or they hosted an annual day event in Delhi, right? And the company is in Chennai, right? So the Star Event Managers, who is, let's say, who is in Bombay, is billing the customer in Chennai, but the event is happening in Delhi. Still, it will be place of supply will be Chennai only and not Delhi, because it is a B2B transaction, right? If it is a B2B transaction, but in B2C, let's say uh, the the director of the company ABC Private Limited, he was impressed by Star Management's the way they organize their annual event, and now he wants to organize his personal event. Let's say in Coorg, right? Now let's say he's organizing his personal event in Coorg, and he is asking them to organize it for him. Now the event is in India, it is in Coorg, right? But where is Star Management? They are in Delhi. And where is the director? Let's say the director is in Bangalore, right? Where is the event happening? It is happening in Coorg. So the location where the event is held, that will be the place of supply, my friends, right? So B2B, it's very simple. I just wanted to say, to connect with the director example. If it is billing to the company, then the place of supply will be the company's registered location. If it is for the individual, that is the director, then you need to see where the event is happening. If it is happening in Coorg, then the Coorg will be the place of supply. Now let's say this event got a big hit, and someone who is, who is outside India wants to appoint the same party to come and organize this event, right? uh, but but the party is not outside India. Sorry, my friends. Let's say the same director, after finishing the Coorg event, he wants to have his, let's say, his destination wedding outside India, right? So his destination wedding is happening outside India. Let's say somewhere in let's say Switzerland. Now his wedding is happening in Switzerland, but he is in India, right? The customer is in India, the director is in India. He was in Bombay. The supplier Star Management is in Delhi, but the event is happening outside India in Switzerland, right? So now in this case, the place of supply says, if the event is happening outside India, then it will be location of recipient, right? Location of recipient will be the place of supply. Even though Star Event Management is organizing the event outside India, let's say Switzerland, both the parties are in India. Who are both the parties? Star Management and the director. They are both Indian parties, right? They are in India. But the event is being organized outside India. Then in that case, you can't say the place of supply is the location where the event is held. The place of supply will be the location of the recipient, which is in Bombay, right? So this will be an IGST transaction, even though the event is being conducted outside India, right? So you need to see where the event is happening. If it is in India, then wherever the event is, the location where the event is held. If the event is outside India, then it will be the location of recipient case, right? So this is these are the 5 services in section 12, for which it is very similar to the general rule B2B B2C, but B2B it is same as general rule, but in B2C guys it is it varies across these services in the following manner, right? So now these 5 services, what is the corresponding impact if the customer is outside India or the supplier is outside India, either party is outside India, what will happen? We go and refer section 13, my friends. So I think we are very clear in these 5 services, right? T3OI, which is training, transportation of goods, transportation of passengers, insurance, organization of an event. Insurance, my friend, covers all insurance services, be it general, marine, uh, personal, life, health, all insurance services, so place of supply is same, right? So but for these 5 services, what will happen if a party, either of the party is outside India, right? So training and performance appraisal services is mentioned in section 12, right? So all these what we discussed now, these are section 12 specific provisions, right? But is we are just having a comparison whether they are also there in section 13. Training and performance supply appraisal services, guys, there is no specific rule in section 13, which means you have to apply the general rule, right? So if you are providing training and performance appraisal services, take our own example, Mr. Navdeep, right? So Mr. Navdeep is providing training services, and say his customer is a NRI who is outside India, and in that case, what's happening? One person is outside India, the supplier is inside India. Supplier is Navdeep, Delhi, recipient is NRI outside India. Now, section 13, does it have a specific rule for training and performance appraisal services? No. So what is going to happen? General rule says the POS will be location of recipient. So let's say the NRA is located in Australia. The place of supply for this training services will be Australia, since there is no uh, specific service under specific subsection under section 13 to deal with training and performance appraisal service, right? Now, transportation of goods. We saw what it is in section 12, right? So we had this Mohit having 2 cousins, B2C example, one in Sri Lanka, one in Bombay. Now, what if it is section 13, guys, right? Section 13 clearly says the POS will be the location of destination of such goods, guys, right? So if the customer is outside India, and right, and if the goods are being sent to India, right? If the goods are coming into India, then what is the place of supply? India, the location of destination of such goods. Similarly, when you are exporting outside India and the goods are being exported to, let's say, US or Europe, right? Germany. Now, if the goods are going to go to Germany, right? What is the destination of the goods? Germany. So the place of supply will be the destination of goods, right? I mean this export of goods example, guys. um, Say this is, it is a case where one party should be outside India. If he is contracting the shipping line in India and he is asking the goods to come to India, then it will be the destination, right? One party should be outside India. Transportation of passengers, right? This is same as section 12, guys. The location where the passenger embarks the conveyance on a continuous journey, that will be the place where he is boarding, that will be considered as the place of supply. This is same as section 12, even for section 13. Even if the supply customer is outside India, the place of supply provisions are same. Insurance services, there is no corresponding insurance provision in section 13. This will follow again the general rule, which is location of recipient of service, guys, right? Organization of an event, right? So in our organization agreement in section 12, we saw we need to see where the event is being held. If it is inside India, then the event location. If it is outside India, then the recipient's location. But when it comes to section 13, there is no such confusion. In all the situations, it is location where the event is held. Now let's say uh, the director who did a destination wedding in Switzerland, right? So one of the attendees of the marriage was very happy with the way star management did the job, and he's a citizen of Switzerland. He is awarding him a contract to do another event in Switzerland, right? Now GST will not come. The place of supply is going to be Switzerland, because he's dealing with the person outside India, unlike the director who was a director of ABC Limited. Here, the director is, or here the customer is outside India. So then the location where the event is held, then the POS will be Switzerland and not the location of recipient. So section 13 is when the customers or the suppliers either party status changes, we need to come to section 13, and this is the corresponding provisions for these 5 services in section 13, my friends. Now there is another interesting example we can see. There is a circular which came, circular 2 bar 2017 IGST, about Antrix Corp Limited, which is a government of India company. So this is where satellites are being launched into the space. Now the question came, what is the place of supply, right? So will the place of supply be considered as because it's going in this to the space, is it outside India or inside India? These confusions came, or section 12, section 13, what to apply. So the law has clearly said, see, when you are dealing with a B2B person in India, right, when you're dealing with a B2B person in India, then what is the uh, provision we saw, friends? If we are dealing with a B2B person in India, then the place of supply will be the location of such registered person. So say if a person from Chennai is contacting, let's say, Antrix Corp is registered in Delhi to launch the satellite. Now, irrespective of where the satellite is going to go, you are located in Chennai and that person is located in Delhi. You are B2B, right? So the place of supply will be Chennai and not the destination of goods, right? So this is what circular clarified, but this circular came in 2017, guys. Now, the destination of goods we saw when we dealt with B2C, my friends. If you are a B2C but B2B person, then the place of supply will be the place where you are registered. That will be considered as the place of supply, irrespective of where the goods are going to go. So this was a clarification given in Circular 2 bar 2017 IGST, right? So I think this is something. This is one segment of our discussion where we have classified the services into which can follow similar to the general rule, that is B2B or B2C, and how to apply the B2C provisions for them. What is the difference with examples? So now also the corresponding section 13. What if one party goes outside India? Is there a corresponding change or is there anything different in section 13? That also we have discussed, my friends. So now, as we saw, there are other 3 or 4 more segments to this, which we will cover in 1 or 2 videos, so that we have an in-depth discussion of place of supply of services. So I think this video will give you a good start in comparing with the general rule to start with the specific rules also, and the other provisions also we'll be discussing in the next video. So thank you. I hope this would have been helpful for you, and you can remember this acronym T3OI, or TTTIO, or whichever is comfortable for you. So we have learned 5 services under section 12 and the corresponding section 13. We will see the remaining in our next video, my friends. Thank you. Thanks for watching. If you felt you liked the video and the content, please share it to your friends.